Hey, this one study habit will drastically help you prepare for your check ride. Hey, my name is Josh. If you're new here, welcome. I'm an instrument pilot with over 100 hours of flight time. We're gonna dive into section 3, and then after that, I'm gonna show you how I use active recall to pass my private pilot check ride and my instrument check ride. With the private pilot ACS, we're talking about section 3. Section 3 is gonna be seaplane base operations and airports. So we're gonna talk about everything that encompasses that. The first section is going to be communication, light signals, and runway light systems. So make sure you know your airport frequencies first and foremost. The next thing you're going to want to look at is ATC light signal recognition, just in case of lost comms. We need to make sure you have appropriate use of your transponder, meaning you know how to input a SWAT code in case of emergency, or if you're doing flight following, or if you're talking to approach. They're going to be giving you a SWAT code and you need to know how to operate that transponder. You need to know how to operate your aircraft in lost comm situations, what the steps are, how to troubleshoot, understand the different runway light status lights. So like, for example, your PAPI lights. What does 2 white, 2 red mean? What does all white mean? What does all red mean? How to determine whether you're on glide slope or not. These are all factors you need to take into consideration in this subsection. The next subsection is going to be your traffic pattern. So you're going to need to know how to operate inside of a traffic pattern, what your speeds are, what your altitudes are. Those are just the basics. You're going to need to demonstrate and understand how to operate in a towered airport, how to operate in an untowered airport. At an untowered airport, what's the traffic frequency? What is everyone on that frequency? What runway are they using? How are they using the airport? Making sure you understand where everybody is when you're in an untowered airport. So yeah, you'll probably talk about why you chose that runway at an untowered airport, or why the tower is using a certain runway. And just know that it's probably gonna come back to which way the winds are gonna be favorable for a better performance aspect of your aircraft. These are gonna be the subsections of section 3 that are gonna help you better perform during your oil board. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comment section below. I'll do my best to answer them to the best of my ability. I'll have a link in the description for the ACS. Now that we've gone through section 3, let's talk about that study habit that I mentioned earlier. So the study habit I mentioned earlier was active recall. Yeah, so the habit of active recall helped me pass my oil board for my instrument check ride in under an hour. And for me, that was quite shocking, right? I'm not the smart guy in the room. I'm not the brainiac of the group. Yeah, so the first thing you're gonna need with active recall is gonna be some sort of source material. So obviously the stuff that you wanna download into your brain, whether that be private pilot or instrument or whatever level you're on, in this case, private pilot, any sort of material that you're studying, whether it be the PHAC or the POH, any of those documents that you're looking over, that's going to be what's called your source material, okay? All right, so the second part of this is don't just reread your source material, right? So obviously you've probably already looked over the PHAC. Obviously you probably already looked over your POH. Now let's go back over it, and instead of just skimming through it or looking at certain parts, read 5 to 10 to 20 sentences and then pause and then try and recall that information. Yeah, and so don't just try and recall it. Also try and bring it around to summarize it in a way that you understand it and you can kind of connect with. Doing that along with trying to remember what you just read is very powerful. Also, after you've done the recall and the summarization part, now try and build some questions out of those 5 to 20 sentences that you just read. Try and develop a couple questions that you can ask yourself later. All right, and the final step with this is implementing those questions that you made into a revision table. So you want to come back to this topic that you're going over. You want to come back to this topic periodically. The next time you study this information might be 2 days from now. And then after that, space it out 5 days. Just go back over that. And then, maybe the next time, the last time you study is about 10 days out. And once you do that, you're building on top of that brain connection that you have already developed from reading over this. So every time the first time you go over it, you're building on top of those brain connections. The second time you go over it, you're building on top of those brain connections. The third time you go over it, you're building on top of those brain connections. But the power here of active recall is the space aspect of the revision table. So day one, the second day you do it, The second time you go over it, right, it's a shorter period. So you went over it and then you waited 2 days. Now you're going over it again, but the next time you go over it, you're waiting 5 days. The next time you go over it, you're waiting 10 days. That space allows your brain to build powerful connections that allows you to recall it when you need it most. For instance, the Checkride. So again, that's active recall. I'm gonna leave a link in the description for an article that talks more in depth about this, where you can go and do your own research and kind of figure out what works for you. There's a couple other basically memory hacks and study hacks that you can kind of gather from that article. But again, I'm gonna leave that in the description below. Lastly, if you stumbled on this video and you're looking for, section 1 or section 2, they're gonna be somewhere over here. Yeah, and if you got value from this video, hit that like button and we'll see you on the next one. And stay safe out there.